Hello and namaste. I want to continue my childhood exploration of science and God. I told you my favorite subject is physics. I fell in love with physics because of this series called Cosmos. People of my generation may remember this series created by the astrophysicist Carl Sagan. Watching Cosmos made me feel like Alice being led into Wonderland. As a 13-year-old, I discovered magical worlds that I never knew existed. I remember watching this episode of Cosmos where Sagan explains Einstein's theory of relativity, specifically how time slows down when you travel at the speed of light. This is called time dilation. He explains this using the example of two brothers. The elder brother takes a ride on his bike close to the speed of light. He leaves his younger brother seated on a park bench who waits for him to return. When the elder brother returns, he finds that his younger brother has become an old man while he has not aged at all. This is because time slows down close to the speed of light. While only a few minutes had elapsed for the elder brother, decades had passed for the younger brother. Just a few days after watching this episode of Cosmos, I read a mythological story in Amar Chitrakatha. It is the story of a king named Kakudmi and his beautiful daughter Revati. Kakudmi believed that only Brahma, the creator himself, could find the right match for his beautiful daughter. So he goes to Brahmaloka to meet Brahma. He reaches Brahmaloka and sees that Brahmaji is in meditation. He waits for him to open his eyes and asks for his advice. Brahmaji laughs and tells him that time passes differently in different lokas. In the short time that he waited for him, 108 yugas had passed on earth. Kakudmi returns to earth and finds that his kingdom is gone. All the people he knew have been long dead and forgotten. This bore such a striking similarity to Carl Sagan's brothers that I wondered if he had read this story from our mythology. According to our mythology, one day in Devaloka is 1 year on earth. One day in Brahmaloka is 8.6 billion years on earth, which is half of the age of our universe itself. The way they experience the passage of time is also very similar to Carl Sagan's analogy. Kakudmi experiences only a few hours passing in Brahmaloka. He does not experience millions of years passing by as he waits. Few hours in Brahmaloka feels exactly like few hours on earth. There is no difference. Thousands of years before Einstein postulated his special theory of relativity, our ancestors have imagined a universe where time flows differently in different paths. What a triumph of imagination. They imagine time as infinite and creation as a cyclic process where the current universe is preceded and followed by infinite number of universes. Anadi Anantam, beginningless and endless. That's how our Vedas describe this cyclic process of creation and dissolution. In the Sanskrit hymn Lalita Sahasranamam that I chant every day, the goddess is described as Aneka Koti Brahmanda Janani, the mother who gave birth to a countless universes. What a modern view of the universe, isn't it? Then I learnt about the Big Bang, the massive explosion that created the universe. Do you know how small the universe was at the time of the Big Bang? Our minds are not equipped to envision it. It was so tiny that you can only describe it as nothing. It was almost 100 million billion times smaller than a proton. Smaller than a proton, not even an atom. A proton itself is 1,000 billion times smaller than a grain of sand. Just to give you an idea of how small this is, we know an atom is very, very small. Let us imagine an atom to be as large as a football field. Then the nucleus of an atom would be the size of just a football in the center. Atom is mostly empty space. This football would contain all the protons and neutrons of the atom. Does this give you an idea of the proportions we are talking about? This is how small a proton is. At the time of Big Bang, the whole universe was 100 billion million times smaller than a proton. Take a second for it to sink in. 100 billion million times smaller than a proton. Can you even imagine this? It just boggles the mind. Billions of galaxies with trillions of stars literally emerging from this nothingness. I used to read this magazine called Partha as a teenager. Like Amar Chitrakatha, this was also Uncle Pai's creation. In one issue, I read this story which was taken from Chandogya Upanishad. A sage asks his son to cut open the fruit of a banyan tree. What do you see inside? He asks. His son replies, I see tiny seeds. Now take out a seed and cut it open and tell me what you see inside. The sage tells his son. He replies, I see nothing. The sage tells his son, you do not see anything inside this seed. But from such a seed, this big banyan tree came. Where you think there is nothing, exists this huge banyan tree. The same is true about the creation. Where we think there is nothing, the whole universe exists in it. Do you notice the parallels between this story and the Big Bang? The whole universe seemingly emerging from nothing. There is another interesting parallel between Big Bang and the Vedic version of creation. Space itself did not exist before the Big Bang. Space was created by the Big Bang. Vedas concur with this view. Space did not exist before creation. It is the first thing that was created. I found these parallels so fascinating. Both science and mythology seem to be on a quest for the same knowledge. Both seem to be raising fascinating questions and providing deep and complex answers. It made me realize that you can discover science in mythology and you can find magic in science. In my mind, they overlapped. A few years later, I attended my first Vedanta class. The first Vedantic text I learned was Mundaka Upanishad. This Upanishad begins with a question. Kasminnu bhagavo vijñāte sarvamidam vijñātam bhavatiti. What is that by knowing which everything else is as good as known? Today, all the physicists are on the quest for a theory of everything, a grand unified theory that will explain the entire universe. This quest for a theory of everything seems to have begun 4,000 years ago, with Shaunaka asking his guru Angiras, what is that by knowing which everything else is as good as known? There is just one last point I want to make. I want to caution you against jumping to the conclusion that our ancient sages knew relativity and quantum theory and understood the Big Bang. That is certainly not what I am suggesting. It is this kind of leaps that make many people question our objectivity and our ability to be rational when it comes to matters of faith. Think about it for a moment. Does this need to be true in order for us to be proud of our heritage? These stories were written at a time when the rest of the humanity had such a limited view of the world. Their geography was confined to small pieces of land. The earth was thought to be the center of the universe, with the sun and stars shining for the benefit of human beings. At such a time in the history of mankind, when we did not possess the accumulated knowledge of hundreds of years of scientific research, when we could not peer through our telescopes to distant galaxies, we had the audacity to imagine an infinite universe and a timescale of billions of years greater than the age of our universe itself. We could visualize time as fluid, flowing differently in different parts of the universe. We could ask ambitious questions that even the current day physicists are still grappling with today. Isn't this something which all of us can be proud of, regardless of our beliefs or political leanings? That's it from me. Thank you for watching. As always, please like, subscribe and share it with your friends. Press the bell icon and you will get reminders whenever I post a new video. Until next week, Namaste.